This podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Currently, you can get free delivery on all orders over £40 and 10% of all online orders by using our code of TakesThatChance10.
Jepson's there, Billy's in! A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town! The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is! Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town!
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed! Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted. Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Welcome to Andy Takes That Chance to Warm Up. As we embark upon our fourth double game week in a row, tiredness is now starting to creep into the legs, decisions seem slower, and podcasts seem longer. But not this one, as we're here to whiz through the preview of another game. Whizzing at the championship urinals with me are Brady Frost and Chris Markham. And you two try and write 100 intros and keep it fresh. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Gonna say, mate.
I'm into the hundreds now. So we'll skip that one very quickly. So this Wednesday night, Town are united with an old friend, a very, very old friend. Wednesday evening is the first league game between these two sides since 1972. The year that Town fans hoped would be our worst ever in the top flight, but sadly not. The teams have only ever met on 15 occasions, usually sidestepping each other on the way up or down. Town have won 8, Coventry 5, and there have been 2 draws. We're struggling for a memorable game from that, but I did dig out one, which is back in 1955. Town plucked Coventry out of the hat in the FA Cup, and after a 3-3 draw at Leeds Road, went to Highfield Road and won 2-1 in extra time. A goal from legendary Town striker Jimmy Glazard and Jimmy Watson, enough to put Town through in the first and only time the two clubs have ever met in the FA Cup. And I'm not going to go to you two for reaction from that because none of us were born then, and that was the year my parents were born, so no chance, absolutely no chance. But it's just good to get Jimmy Glazard on the podcast, that's all, a Town striking legend. And we'll move on, and we'll move on to Brady. Brady, go all Patrick Moore on us and give us the lay of the sky.
Well, Coventry, they're 18th in the table with 21 points. That's actually only 3 points behind us. So if they win, they could be in a similar position to us. Obviously, they got promoted from League One last season. They had a bit of a difficult start, but they're actually unbeaten in 7, and they beat Cardiff and drew with Norwich in this run. Looking at the home form, they've not lost at home in 5 matches, and they've only conceded 3 goals in those games, including 2 clean sheets. So, again, it's going to be a bit of a tight game. A bit like Wycombe, but what I would say is Coventry have a lot more quality than Wycombe do, which I'm sure we'll go on to. And games are coming thick and fast, and there's no easy games in the Championship, is there? So a bit of an interesting one, this one.
Chris, what strengths and weaknesses have you gleaned from Coventry? Obviously new to the Championship, new to us, new to everybody that's over 48 years of age. So let us know what you've managed to pick up from there. From me, I can see Robbins likes to play a bit. I remember when he was at Huddersfield, and he always used to say, Oggy used to say, what formation have you used to play? And he used to smirk and go, it's fluid. And he seems to have taken that shape with a back 3 and implemented it a little bit at Coventry lately. Town vulnerable, you would say, in front of the back 4 at the moment if Jonathan Hogg doesn't play. And a few players they've got, Coventry, who could get into key areas and make things happen a little bit. In terms of scoring and conceding, like you say, Brady, they're not too far from us. Only 2 goals less, conceded the same. So probably quite similar in a lot of ways. And maybe it's a well-matched game. But Huddersfield, we will come on to, are a little bit low in numbers. Chris, what have you taken from Coventry then so far?
Yeah, like you say, it's a bit of a difficult one. I think obviously having worked with Mark before, you know what type of, he's he has his principles, but he's also willing to adapt. So when he says it's fluid, he will make slight adjustments for the opposition, which will be interesting to see how he does. Obviously, different styles. I think they're a team that they're really difficult because Robin's teams have hot and cold spells. They've not lost in the last 7 games, and then before that they come by a win. So I think this is, there's a lot of draws in there. It's going to be very tight. They don't have many shots. The third fewest shots per game in the league, and fourth most of them as a percentage are from outside the box. So they're not a team that's going to tear you to pieces, a bit like we spoke about with Bournemouth, obviously. And they even struggle sometimes to get into that final third. Only 25% of their passes are in the opposition's final third. So I think it's going to be a game that's going to be a real battle of attrition, really. I think they'll be happy to make it ugly as possible. Maybe try and spoil it quite a lot. I think it'll be tight. One player who they'll miss, I know we're going to go on to players shortly. One player who they'll miss is Godden. Obviously, he's been out, as we discussed just before we came on. He was the top scorer, most assists, most key passes, and you can see all of a sudden now why they maybe do struggle to get into that final third and create chances. So I think with going back to 2 up top, with him playing 3-5-2 with the wing backs, maybe suits their personnel.
And Brady, what have you taken from Coventry and take us into the key player that you've picked for them?
Yeah, well, in terms of weaknesses, I actually noticed they seem to concede quite a few penalties, and we'll kind of come on to team selection, but I think Bakuna could be interesting for that. Obviously, won that penalty against QPR. Less said about what happened with the penalty, the better. But they, again, another team that seems to be quite strong at set pieces. So a key player for them I've picked is Liam Kelly. So I was chatting to Tom Ward, who we'll hear later on, but this good run of form seems to be when he's returned, the captain, and he got 2 goals at the weekend. And just a bit of a one to watch out for. I say, obviously, we'll come on to more trickier players, but he's the one I'd be a bit wary of for Wednesday.
For those that don't remember, he was the one that scored Reading's last penalty. Well, the last goal that Reading scored at Wembley, the third penalty, which was probably the best one of the day, you would say as well, wasn't it? The player I've picked out is Gustavo Hamer. He's coming from, I can't remember where he's come from, sorry, but he's come from abroad. Looks a very neat and tidy player, drawing quite a few plaudits from podcasts such as the Second Tier Pod and Not the Top 20. He's seems to be a really neat and tidy player who can make things happen, in the middle third. Looks to be someone who likes to get down and play. So, Matt Robbins loves those rotating 6 and 8s, doesn't he, Chris? So, I'm sure he'll be buzzing in and around that. Who have you picked out, Chris, from Cov?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, really, because obviously with the back three, I've gone for one of the members of that back three who's playing on the right side, who's behind Darbo, who's a very adventurous, sort of forward-thinking wing-back. And it's Leo Østigard. He's a young Norwegian who they took, I think he's initially on loan from Brighton. He's a real sort of tall, commanding presence figure, but he's actually fairly decent on the ball as well, which you need for someone who's going to play on that right side of a three. I think he's won most aerial duels for them this year, and he has the highest pass completion of the 3 regular centre backs. So maybe also being at Brighton, particularly under Graham Potter, maybe his background in Norway, he's going to be someone who might be important, that bit of composure playing against us. However, I think the other thing with that is he's not always comfortable when he has to get dragged out into those right back positions. So I maybe picked him as a key player for them, but potentially could be a weakness that we could exploit as well, particularly having to go and cover in those wide areas when he is more comfortable in the centre.
Interesting. Lead us into the discussion about how Town could attack Coventry then from those weak spots and other areas that you've seen.
Yeah, I think that's the thing around the formation, probably, rather than anything. Like I said, they'll be well drilled, they'll be hard working. It's not going to be a game that you're going to win, and in terms of the men, it's not going to be a pushover, or it's not going to be overly aggressive. I think it's going to be a one that you're going to have to be clever with. So I think those tactical sort of battles around the back three, the space behind the wing backs, pulling these wide players out, maybe a few longer switches of play. It'd be interesting to see if Vallejo plays and what sort of, we'll come on to that in a bit, but what sort of passing range he's got, because longer switches of play and balls, maybe longer passes down the sides of those centre-backs could do something that we could really exploit. Get them turn facing their own goal with the pace maybe of a couple of our wingers who could come in and play. I think that would probably be an area I'd really look to focus on, getting behind those outside centre backs.
Any key player for us?
My key player. I mentioned Vallejo there. I'm not too sure about him in terms of his particular style and what he brings. He's obviously new in his career. I think proved the other day, obviously a lot of changes, but I think we missed someone who can really dictate that middle of the pitch with quality. So I think if Aitin comes back in, or if he obviously gets the start based off his squad rotation at the minute, I think he could be someone who could really pick those passes that I'm talking about in behind and sort of create those passing lanes for everyone else. So I'm going to go for someone I've not gone for before as well. So I'm going to go with Aitin. I think that bit of guile and taking the sting out of the game and controlling it away from home could be crucial.
Yeah, very interesting. For me, Town could be better rested than Coventry. For those players who didn't play at the weekend. We took O'Brien and Toffolo off early, didn't we? Once we realised the game was gone against Bournemouth, which possibly could have been after 20 minutes, but there you go. Pippa obviously was on the bench and unused. He should come back in, and for me, he's our key player because he had so much balance and to be honest, without being critical of anyone else, I think it's quite. You can see the distance in quality between Pippa and the backup on that side. He's so far ahead of what's behind him, and so is Toffolo. To be fair, although Jayden Brown's not bad, but Toffolo's quite a distance. I think those two will continue to be our key players and add balance. And I suspect there might be a formation switch as well in there, and those two will always be key. But Pippa coming back in hopefully gives us that balance. And speaking of balance, Brady always brings this to the podcast. What are you going for, mate?
Well, I've picked him before, but I suppose this is more of a want. But I think Isaac Mbenza, just because obviously we're crying out for 3 months. I think I kind of want Mbenza to run a game. Obviously, he's had some really good performances, but I want him to kind of be the main man. And I'm hoping this is kind of a game, like you say, Aiting will be back and have those passes in, and he kind of steps up and wins this for us. So that's what I've gone for. I know it's not a very well thought out choice, but you've got to pick the obvious one sometimes. And yeah, I think this could be a good game for him. And again, obviously, if they seem to give away silly set pieces. We know what he's like with set pieces. 2 free kicks now scored. So yeah, fancy Mbenza for this one.
Excellent. I think that's probably considering what Chris said about the right centre back getting pulled out. I think Mbenza might be a good shout there.
Yeah, like yours as well, Matt. Pippa was my backup. I think he'll be, because obviously of how adventurous he is, I think he could be a threat down in behind the left side.
Absolutely. And let's move on to Return to the Mac, which we've not quite got the music ready for yet, maybe after Christmas. A player you'd bring back to win this game. Yes, so let's all jump into the Tim Hot Tub time machine. You see what I've done there? I've still managed to sneak that in.
Can't let it go, can you?
I'm not letting that go. And let's discuss who we'll bring back. First, a word for our winner, Brady. Went for the...
There's no words, mate. You can't just play in the audience.
I think he did, but by the same token, I think the performance against Bournemouth and the team selection against Bournemouth showed that defenders were the order of the day, not Emil Smith-Rowe, because I don't think he affects that game whatsoever.
Sounds like loser talk
Suck
here, boys.
it, Brady.
A lot of loser talk, a lot of sour grapes going on here.
Imagine if we'd had a leader or a warrior like Peter
got less
Clark.
than 10%. Tom Cowan.
I know.
Tom Cowan. I can't believe Tom Cowan. I'm going to say it again. Tom Cowan.
A legend.
Drinking your tears, gent.
There must be some, you know what? There must be some young lads on Twitter who maybe don't know who Tom Cowan is, but...
How could you not know Tom Cowan is?
Do we need to have a chat? I think we maybe need to do a Tom Cowan podcast at some point. Maybe.
I'd love to do one. He's on Twitter. He's on my list. On my list, along with likes of Phil Starbuck and Brady's mate Ewan Roberts. So they're on the list. They're on the list.
It's a good win. It's a good win. He's
good 60% there. So well done, Brady. But that means you get to go last again.
Answer class as always.
Right. I'm going to, as soon as I've not technically won one of the polls, although I'm claiming a moral victory in one of them, not last week, but I can't remember which one it was, one or two. I'm going to go first. So, so you look at our side, and obviously with Josh Koroma out injured, there's a big problem in terms of scoring goals and filling a gap from the left-hand side. So it's quite easy to me. You bring back Karlan Grant for this game against Coventry. You're lacking goals. You're lacking guile from the left-hand side. So for me, Karlan Grant was the ultimate last year in coming in from the left-hand side, and 19 goals last season. Okay, 7 or 8 penalties in there, but he scored a lot of goals from range outside the box and coming in from that left flank, and that's exactly what we're missing at the minute. So for me, Karlan Grant in to replace Josh Koroma. Can't blow the conch. It's retired for 3 months, and he's my pick this week. Chris,
who's playing the poll now, by the way?
Oh well, it's common sense that Brady. It's common sense.
And he wanted to leave. People might not be too keen. I'm not bothered about the poll, and I'm going to back myself. I'm going to double down and be stubborn. I'm going back to the promotion team of Neil Warnock, 94-95. I think we spoke a little bit about this a minute ago, but I think we miss Hoggy in these type of games. I think obviously Hoggy's club legend.
You're going to pick my all-time favourite, aren't you?
I'm not sure, but we miss that aggression. The one thing that Hoggy is not get in the box and get a goal man and really drive the team forward. He's obviously that assuring, aggressive, leader that every team needs. The one for me is in his prime in this season, and this is what I'm talking about in his prime, and the season after, to be fair, he could really drive forward, but also drive into the box and get goals. And I think you maybe need something a bit like that aggressive dynamism this week to maybe get through what's going to be a tight game. Darren Bullock. Now, what a guy. Obviously, I know he's been on the pod, but what a driving force. I think people forget how actually good he was at times, and obviously he was in and out of the team. Oh, he could play.
Under Brian Horton the year after the promotion season, he was phenomenal. He could play.
Yeah, box, absolute box to box, and playing that 2-man, most of the time there 2-man midfield, and really getting forward, breaking in, and just aggression and the way he played. I think he was someone who could really drive forward in a game like this, away from home, Wednesday night, long sort of drawn out affair. So yeah, I'm sticking to it. I'm not going to pander to the poll. I'm not going soft around the edges. I'm sticking with it. Neil Warnock's team, Darren Bullock.
I don't know. Darren Bullock is a popular one. That's a tough one to beat, I reckon.
Yeah,
tough one to beat. Braid Church, what are you going for, mate?
So I think, given how shocking we were at the back at the weekend, I think we need someone who has a never give up attitude, and you need someone's like aggression and just to be bang up for it, really.
Kevin Sharp.
Set the tone. No.
I know
Jason Gavin.
You know I'm going for.
Yeah, he's playing the poll. He's playing the poll again.
I think I know.
He's playing the poll again.
I was going to go for this guy if it's who I think it is.
Plus, you need a goal where, it might bounce off someone's arse and go in.
I knew it.
Stick him up front and get 2 against Rochdale. So I'll go for Michael Heffler. Because I actually do think he would be really good for this game. It's the type of game we need him for. And, it could be last 5 minutes kind of us rushing and trying to get anything. And we know what Heffler's like. He'd be going up there last minute. So, yeah, Michael Heffler.
He's using them all up, mate. I think we'll struggle when we get beyond the obvious
cult heroes. I think, once the cult heroes are gone, Brady's done for, isn't he? I think
this is a strong poll this week, though.
I think I'm finishing last. I've sat there. I think I'm quite smug with Karlan Grant. I think that the rationale's decent, and then those two, and I'm sat there thinking, oh no, I think I'm cooked on this one already.
Mate, I genuinely wasn't playing the poll, but we'll see.
Right. Okay. So. Earlier, Brady chatted to Tom Ward from Sky Blues Extra, and here's what Tom had to say on Coventry's season so far.
Cool, we're good. And I'm joined now by Tom Ward from Sky Blues Extra. Tom, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Not bad. Yeah, pleased with the result of the weekend. So always good to go into the week with 3 points in the bag. Yeah.
Yeah, wish we could say the same, but I think we had a game on Saturday. I can't remember. Anyway, so we've got you on because obviously we're playing each other in midweek. As we were kind of touching on our preview pod, we actually haven't played you guys that much. So, how's your season been going so far?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a mixture, really. We it was tough at the start. We had probably one of the toughest starts, I think, out of any team. We played, I think in our first 10 games, we played a lot of the teams that you expect to finish in the top half, if not the top six. So quite a tough start. We weren't picking up a huge amount of points, but sort of just after the international break, actually, we seem to have turned a bit of a corner. So I think we're unbeaten in 7 now. Which we've definitely turned the corner. I think it just took us a little while to get to grips with the Championship and the sort of level, and it is obviously very different to League One. But yeah, managed to turn a bit of a corner now, picking up some decent results. We've got a much better run of games now in December and January, so I think things are kind of picking up a bit for us.
Yeah, and obviously, like you touched on for our article, you've had a couple of players come back in, like Liam Kelly. Just who are the players we should be looking out for, really, in this game?
Yes, it's a shame actually. He's picked up an injury now, Liam Kelly, at the weekend, which is frustrating. So we'll wait to hear how long he might be out for. But yeah, as you said, him coming back in made a big difference to our team. But I'd say probably some of our summer signings are probably the ones to watch. So Gustavo Hamer, who you might have heard about, we signed him for 1.2 million from Zwolle in Holland. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know how we've managed to pull this transfer, because he's absolutely unbelievable. Proper, picked him up in obviously European market. Perhaps people just hadn't really heard of him, and we've obviously scouted him. But he's been brilliant for us. He's just a class above. Some of his trickery is unbelievable. He actually started the season playing more in a sort of holding role. Now he's being pushed a bit further forward. So he's really influential. He's now chipping in with goals as well. His delivery from corners and free kicks is really good. So he's definitely one to watch. We also have Tyler Walker, who we signed from Forest in the summer. Obviously he was absolutely banging them in League One and League Two for a couple of years. He's starting to hit some form in the Championship as well, and he's got a really keen eye for goal. So he's another one. They're probably the main two, I would say. Yeah,
no, Hamer seems to be kind of a great player. Likes to get yellow as well, get stuck in.
Definitely. He's on 4 yellows at the moment as well. So we sort of he was on the bench on Saturday. So I think we were kind of keeping him for the Huddersfield game, because he can't help himself sometimes.
Well, it's you like it. It's what you've got to see. So kind of touching about Mark Robbins. Obviously, former boss for us, but he's done a bit of an impressive job. But I know he's a bit of a tinkerer. He likes to change the formation. So what? It might be hard to guess, but what kind of you expecting formation-wise from the game on Wednesday?
Yeah, he does seem to change it a bit. We were sort of changing between playing 4 at the back in some games, where we were maybe away trying to get a point and going a little bit more defensive. He seems to be sticking a bit more with the 3 at the back with the wing backs now. The thing that he tends to change is whether we play with 1 or 2 strikers. At Wycombe, we played with 1, but obviously they're not as good a team in this league. So when we're playing against a better team, we tend to go with the 2 up top. So I think possibly he'll do that. And obviously, as I said, Liam Kelly's going to drop out the team as well. So we've got sort of less options in the midfield. So I would imagine it'd be a 3 at the back with wing backs and then 2 up front. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like we might have a bit of a handful then. So what are you kind of expecting from Huddersfield? Have you been keeping an eye on us much this season?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's interesting with you guys because obviously, I guess we always expect the teams that come down from the Premier League over the last couple of years to be very, very strong with obviously the parachute payments and things like that. I know you had a big clear out of players, I think, in the summer, and perhaps didn't sort of replace them or sign as many players as people expected you to. So sort of a bit of a mixed season really in sort of mid-table, but definitely seeing that you keep the ball really. I think you're second in the league for possession, so definitely keep the ball really well. I think that possibly could frustrate us in the game, but again, quite a tough game to predict. I think it's one that possibly we could go out and win, but at the same time you've obviously you've still got some really good players, so it's a tough one to predict, I think.
Which leads me on to, can you predict the score for me?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I'm going to be positive. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win to us. We're at home. Our home form's, our borrowed home. Our home form's pretty good. I'll go with a 1-0 win.
Nice. I think it'll be a tight game. I've gone for a 1-0 win in the other direction. So we will see who's right. But Tom, thanks so much for joining us, mate.
Yeah, no worries at all. Cheers for having me on.
Okay, so thanks to Tom for joining us and speaking to Brady. It's always good to hear the opposition side, and we'll continue to try and bring what the opposition fans say as well moving forward. It's always good to hear that. But now it's all about us again, and as Brady sticks on those skinny chinos, I stick on David Wagner's blue cap, and Chris Markham is very familiar with Mark Robbins's glaring. What did I say before? It was like a glare, isn't it? Glowering expression. That's what we usually say as we try to predict what will happen. Okay, so we're the coach. I'm going to go throw this to you, Brady, first. What would you do in this game?
Well, I think we all agree, kind of judging from the team selection, I think Coburn had one eye on this game, so I'd expect some of our better performers this season to come back in. I'm assuming Hamer's probably not going to be fit for this game, so I've gone 4-3-3 because that's the formation we tend to win a couple of matches with. So I've got Schofield, I've got Pippa, Edmonds Green, and Sarr. I think the only issue with Sarr is people seem to be targeting his passing out the back, so I'm a bit worried. But then Toff, and then I bring Eiting back in, as we've discussed. Don't know about Hogg, so Vallejo. I think let's just play this guy, and then O'Brien, and then I bring Mbenza and Campbell back as well. And then for the left wing, it's a bit of a tricky one, but I've gone for Bacuna because he can play that role, but I've got to be honest, he's frustrating me.
He's done it before under the Cowleys, and he did it quite well on one or two occasions. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he could win a penalty, as I kind of mentioned. So, I think we could do for a win this game, but I think it's going to be tight. Score predictions, I'll go 1-0 Town.
Christopher?
Yeah, like you say, I think he's definitely had an eye on this game. And although Coventry are obviously on a good run, the fixture list has also been a little bit favourable for him, and they have drawn a lot of those games. So I'm certainly not pessimistic about this one. I think obviously there could be. I think bringing Pippa back in is going to be big. I think potentially, not sure if it's one for Diakabi again in terms of get him and Benza down the sides with pace. Probably not. I think he might have had a few too many opportunities. But yeah, I think for me, having a look at that combative midfield again, I think, like I said, bringing O'Brien, keeping him fresh, I still think it's 4-3-3. I don't think we've got the centre-backs still fit to go three at the back yet. So yeah, I think he'll go back virtually as full strength as he can with this one. The left wing spot, again, is probably the only one, and I don't mind the Bacuna shout. And like I said, I maybe don't mind the Vallejo shout as well. Maybe see what his range of passing's like, get Eiting a little bit further forward, playing close at the front and linking it. So yeah, that's probably what I'd go for. I've not named every position, I'm aware, but I think scoreline wise, now this game's going to be tight. They've only been behind at home at first half only 3 times at half time, and our first half away record's really poor. So I think if we can keep, we've only been in front once out of 9. I think if we can keep it, if it's level at half time, I think we'll nick it 2-1. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Town. A tight game, not pretty. Maybe set pieces. Maybe would you like a moment of, another Karoma type strike, but from somebody else other than him? I think we need someone to really come up with a moment of magic and maybe just get us going in this one. But I think he's going to have a real go at it. So I fancy us to win.
Interesting. I'm a little bit unsure what to pick for this game. I've got a couple of things in mind really, but I think I'm going to go to a back three. But just based on Coventry, if they play 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, I think Colbrand's tendency is to go for an extra man at the back. Who that extra man is, I'm not sure. I've got two players in mind who are either in or out. So Hamer, I would go for if he's fit. If he's not, Ryan Schofield obviously will come in. Romani Edmonds Green and Naby Sarr pick themselves as the only 2 fit most senior centre-backs. Then I'll come to the next one. 3-5-2 is what I've gone for. Pippa, Eiting, Bacuna, Lewis O'Brien in midfield, and Mbenza and Campbell up front. I think Mbenza just peeling off and moving around, those centre-backs, when the wing-backs go forward, could be an interesting option for us to have just to pull into space. So the trick for me is the left-hand side of defence and the left wing-back. Toffolo is obviously going to play for me if he's fit, which I presume he is. But the choice really is to either play Toffolo as a left-sided centre-back like he did in pre-season and bring Jaden Brown as left wing-back, or go with Ramoni Critchlow as the left centre-back and Toffolo as the left wing-back. I'm a little bit caught between two minds on that one, but I could see potentially Toffolo moving as a centre-back as an option, and equally Alex Vallejo could, or Vallejo, whichever pronunciation you go for, could also move in, but primarily he's a midfielder. But if he's not up to 100% speed in terms of fitness, as we all know, centre-back's probably a little bit easier for you than centre midfield, isn't it, when you're trying to get up to speed? So there's a couple of options there, but I think 3-5-2, the extra man at the back to counteract the extra attackers from Coventry, get Eiting on the ball in midfield. Bacuna I've picked just in case Hogg's not back, but I would pick Hogg over Bacuna if Hogg is fit. Prediction-wise, I think Town have probably put too many eggs in this basket, if you know what I mean. I'm not overly confident in this one, but I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think Coventry are tough at home. I think it'll be a bit of a drab game for a lot of it, and I think we'll score first and we'll draw 1-1. That's it. And I think that's it this week, guys. I think we've done this almost in record time. So again, thanks guys for coming on. Thanks to Tom from Sky Blues Extra for joining us as well. And we'll be back for the main podcast live on Thursday, isn't it, this week, Brady? So we'll be back this week live on Thursday. Make sure you join us for that one. And then the finished recording will be out either later that night or first thing Friday morning. So again, thank you very much. Thanks to Magic Rock for sponsoring us. And we'll be back with another preview before the weekend.
Oh, what a night. Late in May in 2017, Schindler scored, it was a heavenly dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight, St. George's Square did see. What an evening, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled, he takes that chance. Oh, what a night. Lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low charge and flattened all Chelsea. Stamford Bridge, oh what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walked and a fence, and then the commentator yelled, he takes that chance. Oh,